The forest had swallowed the laboratory whole decades ago. Vines crept through broken windows, and moss blanketed what remained of the concrete exterior. Dr. Ethan Cole pushed through the undergrowth, his scanner beeping erratically. The energy signature he'd been tracking for weeks pulsed stronger here, deep in the wilderness where no human settlement should exist. The entrance gaped open like a mouth, exhaling cold metallic air. Ethan hesitated, his breath forming clouds in the unseasonable chill. Every instinct screamed danger, but curiosity, that fatal flaw of every good scientist, pulled him forward. Inside, the corridor stretched impossibly long, lined with panels that flickered with dying light. The walls seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting with an organic rhythm that made his skin crawl. As he ventured deeper, the pulsing grew stronger, accompanied by a low hum that vibrated through his chest. The central chamber stole his breath. A woman hung suspended in a web of crystalline tendrils, her body wrapped in what looked like living metal. She was beautiful in an otherworldly way, skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner luminescence, hair that moved despite the still air, features that were almost human, but not quite. Her eyes were closed, face peaceful, as if she were merely sleeping. Ethan approached carefully, his scientific mind cataloging every detail while his heart hammered against his ribs. The machinery surrounding her pulsed in sync with her shallow breathing. Whatever this equipment was, it was keeping her alive. "Hello." His voice echoed strangely in the space. "Can you hear me?" The woman's eyes snapped open, brilliant violet, with pupils that contracted to slits before dilating wide. She gasped, her body jerking against the restraints. The tendrils sparked, and Ethan jumped back as energy crackled through the air. "Please," she whispered, her voice accented with sounds his ears couldn't quite process. "Help me." His hands trembled as he examined the connections. The interface was nothing like Earth technology, but the basic principles seemed universal. He worked carefully, disconnecting nodes one by one. With each release, she breathed easier, color flooding her cheeks. When the final tendril released, she collapsed into his arms. Her body was warm, solid, undeniably real. She looked up at him, those extraordinary eyes searching his face with an intensity that made him flush. "Thank you," she breathed, her hand pressing against his chest, right over his racing heart. Behind them, a grinding sound echoed through the chamber. Ethan spun to see the massive doors sliding shut, sealing them inside. He ran to the entrance, pounding against the metal, but it didn't budge. "What's happening?" he demanded, turning back to her. She stood now, steadier, her expression grave. "You shouldn't have freed me. You shouldn't leave, not until you understand what I am." The lights around them pulsed brighter, responding to her presence. "Not until you know my secret." The sealed doors mocked Ethan's attempts to override them. Every panel he tried was dead, every emergency release unresponsive. The woman, if she was a woman, watched him with those unsettling violet eyes, her expression somewhere between regret and resignation. "Stop," she said finally. "You're wasting your energy. The laboratory won't let you leave." "Won't let me?" Ethan whirled on her. "This is a building, not a sentient being. Buildings don't make decisions." A sad smile crossed her lips. "This one does. It's tied me to what I carry inside." She pressed a hand to her chest. "My name is Kaya. I've been here for, I don't know how long. Time feels different when you're suspended between living and dying." Despite his fear, Ethan's scientific curiosity flared. "What are you?" "Your physiology, the technology, nothing about this makes sense." "I'm what your people might call a keeper," Kaya said, moving closer. The air around her seemed to shimmer. "My species exists in the spaces between your civilizations, guarding knowledge too dangerous for any single world to possess." As she spoke, the walls flickered. Holographic images bloomed around them, vast star charts, equations that hurt to look at, glimpses of technologies that defied physics. Ethan reached out, his hand passing through a projection of a weapon that could crack planets like eggs. "This is impossible," he whispered, "and yet it's real." Kaya's voice was soft, almost apologetic. She moved behind him, close enough that he could feel her warmth. Feel the air around us, Ethan. How it responds to me. She raised her hand, and shadows stretched unnaturally across the floor, defying the light sources. Another gesture, and the temperature dropped 10 degrees. The very fabric of reality seemed malleable in her presence. Inside me is a core, she continued, her breath warm against his ear. Energy condensed to a point beyond your understanding of physics. It's what allows me to influence things, but it's also what makes me dangerous. Ethan turned to face her, acutely aware of how close they stood. Dangerous how? If I leave this facility without proper containment, the core becomes unstable. The energy it releases. She looked away. Your scanners brought you here because you detected the bleed-off. But that's nothing compared to what would happen if the core ruptured. This entire region would be atomized. The implications crashed over him. So we're trapped here. You can't leave, and I can't leave me. Kaya finished. The laboratory sealed itself the moment you freed me from the stasis field. It's trying to protect the outside world from what I might become. There has to be a way to stabilize you, Ethan said, his mind already racing through possibilities. If your people built this place, there must be protocols, procedures. There were others, Kaya interrupted, other keepers who try to leave before their time. The cores always destabilized, the laboratories always. She gestured at the decaying facility around them. This is a tomb as much as a prison. Ethan paced, trying to think, but he kept getting distracted by her presence, the way she moved, the impossible grace of someone not quite human. When he stumbled over debris, she caught him, her hands strong and sure on his arms. Their eyes met. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm sorry you found me. Sorry you're trapped here, because of what I am. It's not your fault, he said, though he wasn't sure he believed it. Her fingers traced along his jaw, the touch sending electricity through his nerves. You're kind. Most wouldn't be, in your position. The laboratory pulsed around them, the lights dimming to something almost intimate. Somewhere in the building, machinery hummed to life. It's starting, Kaya said, her voice tight with fear. The destabilization. We don't have much time. Alarm shrieked through the facility, red lights strobing across Kaya's frightened face. Ethan felt the floor vibrate beneath his feet, a deep rumbling that suggested the laboratory itself was coming apart. Show me where the core interface is, he demanded, grabbing her hand. Her skin was fever-hot now, pulsing with energy barely contained. She led him through corridors that shifted and changed, the laboratory rearranging itself like a living maze. Twice they had to backtrack, when walls sealed in front of them. The building was fighting them, or perhaps trying to contain what was happening to Kaya. Here, she gasped, pulling him into a chamber dominated by a massive crystalline structure. Inside it, he could see something that looked like a miniature star, swirling with colors that shouldn't exist. This is the primary containment interface. Ethan approached the controls, his scientific training warring with the sheer impossibility of what he was seeing. The interface was partially in English, partially in symbols he'd never seen, as if it had tried to adapt to his language, but failed halfway through. I don't know what I'm doing, he admitted. Neither do I, Kaya said, pressing close behind him. But we have to try. Together, they worked through the sequences, his logical mind complementing her instinctive understanding of the technology. Every adjustment caused reactions. The core would brighten or dim. The vibrations would intensify or ease. They were searching blind for the right combination, knowing each wrong move brought them closer to annihilation. Sweat dripped down Ethan's face. Kaya's hands shook as she reached past him to touch certain nodes. In the confined space, they were constantly touching, shoulders brushing, hands overlapping, her body pressed against his back as she guided his fingers across incomprehensible controls. There, she breathed, her lips nearly touching his ear. That pattern, it feels right. Ethan input the sequence she described. The core swirling slowed, the red light shifting toward amber. The alarm softened slightly. "It's working," he said, hardly daring to hope. But then the core pulsed, brighter than before, and Kaya cried out. She doubled over, clutching her chest, and Ethan caught her before she fell. Her skin was burning now, so hot he could barely hold her. "What's happening?" "The stabilization, it requires a feedback loop," she gasped. "The core needs to recognize a bond, a connection to something stable, something that can anchor it to this reality. How do we create that bond?" Her eyes met his, and he saw fear warring with something else, desire, need, longing, intimacy, deep connection. The cores were designed to respond to emotional resonance, to the energy created when two beings truly connect. Understanding crashed over him. "You mean—" I need you," Kaya whispered, her hands fisting in his shirt. "Not just physically. The core responds to authentic emotion, to real attraction and trust. It can sense deception." The laboratory shuddered around them. Whatever time they had was running out. Ethan cupped her face, forcing himself to be honest. "I barely know you. We've been together for hours." "I know," she said, her voice breaking, "but I also know what I feel when you touch me. What I've felt since you freed me. Is it just gratitude? Desperation? Maybe. But it's also real. And right now, real is all we have." He kissed her then, unable to help himself. Her lips were soft and burning, tasting of something sweet and alien. She melted against him, her arms wrapping around his neck as the kiss deepened. The core reacted immediately. The light shifted again, stabilizing into a steady blue pulse. The vibrations eased. "It's working," Ethan breathed against her mouth. "Don't stop," she pleaded, pulling him closer. "We need more. The bond needs to be stronger." His hands found the fastenings of her strange garment, and she helped him, desperate and urgent. Her skin glowed faintly in the dim light, beautiful and impossible. When they came together, the core sang, its light washing over them in waves of blue and violet. They moved together frantically, driven by need and fear, and something neither could name. Every touch, every gasp, every moment of genuine pleasure fed the stabilization sequence. The alarms faded to silence. The shaking stopped. In the aftermath, they lay tangled together on the cold floor, breathing hard. The core pulsed steadily above them. Calm now, contained. "Did we—" Ethan couldn't finish the question. "Yes," Kaya whispered, her head on his chest. "The bond is established. The core is stable." He should have felt relieved. Instead, he felt the weight of what they'd just done settling over him. What happens now? Her silence was answer enough. Morning light, if it was morning. Time had lost meaning in the sealed laboratory, filtered through cracks in the ceiling, painting patterns across Kaya's sleeping form. Ethan watched her breathe, his arm numb where her head rested, unwilling to move and wake her. The core hummed softly in the chamber beyond, its steady pulse a reminder of what they'd done, what they'd had to do, what it meant. Kaya stirred, her violet eyes blinking open. For a moment, she smiled, genuine and warm. Then memory returned, and the smile faded to something more complicated. "The bond is holding," she said quietly, sitting up. She was still gloriously naked, unself-conscious in a way that made his heart ache. "I can feel it. The core is content." "Content," Ethan echoed, "like it's a living thing." "In a way, it is. It's a piece of my species' collective consciousness, condensed and contained. It needs connection to function properly, to remember why it exists." She looked at him, her expression unreadable. "It needed us to connect." Ethan pulled on his clothes, needing the barrier. "And now, can we leave?" The question hung between them like a blade. Kaya stood, retrieving her own garment. "Let me check the containment readings." He followed her back to the primary interface, watching as she manipulated controls with growing confidence. Strings of data scrolled past, most incomprehensible to him. But he saw her shoulders tense, saw the moment hope died in her eyes. "What is it?" "The bond stabilized the core, but—" She turned to him, and he saw tears gathering. "It also bound us together. Permanently. The core has synchronized with our combined energy signature. If we separate by more than a few hundred meters, it will destabilize again. The implications took a moment to process. We're bonded? Like, we can't be apart? Ever, she confirmed. And there's more. The laboratory, it won't open. Not fully. It's detected the stabilization and entered a new protocol. We can access some areas now, resources to survive, but it won't let us leave. Why? Ethan's voice rose. If the core is stable, why keep us trapped? Because the bond needs time to fully integrate. Weeks, maybe months. The laboratory is protecting the outside world from any possibility of destabilization during that period. She moved to him, taking his hands. I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you wanted. You came here exploring, and now you're trapped with a stranger, bound to her in ways you never agreed to. Ethan looked at their joined hands, at the woman, the alien he'd made love to hours ago out of desperation and fear. Are we strangers, though? After what we shared? I don't know, Kaya admitted. The intimacy was necessary, but was it real? Can anything be real under such circumstances? He pulled her closer, needing to test the question himself. When he kissed her this time, there was no alarm, no imminent catastrophe. Just them, together in the quiet aftermath. Her response was immediate and eager, her body molding to his. This time, they moved to one of the newly accessible chambers, a space that the laboratory had converted into something almost comfortable. Soft surfaces, ambient lighting, temperature controlled for their comfort. As if it was trying to make their imprisonment bearable. They explored each other more slowly now, learning preferences and pleasures without the pressure of saving their lives. Kaya's skin was impossibly soft, and she gasped when he kissed the curve of her throat. He discovered that touching certain points along her spine made her arch and moan. She found that he was sensitive behind his ears, that he loved when she whispered his name. The core pulsed in harmony with their pleasure, a steady rhythm that bound them deeper with every touch. After, lying tangled together, Ethan asked the question that had been haunting him. What happens when the integration is complete? When the laboratory finally lets us leave? Kaya traced patterns on his chest, her finger leaving glowing trails that faded slowly. We'll still be bonded. We'll have to stay together, build a life together, or risk destabilizing the core again. A life together, he repeated. As what? Lovers? Partners? Prisoners who share a cell? I don't know, she whispered. What do you want us to be? Ethan thought about his old life, his research, his apartment, his carefully ordered existence. All of it felt distant now, unreal. This woman, this impossible situation, felt more real than anything he'd known before. He started, then stopped. What did he want? I want to know you. Really know you. Not just because we're forced together, but because I choose to. She looked up at him, hope warring with fear in those violet eyes. You might not like what you discover. Maybe not, he agreed, but we have time to find out, don't we? Weeks or months trapped here together. We might as well use them. A genuine smile broke across her face, transforming her alien features into something breathtaking. Then let's start with the truth. No more secrets. No more secrets, he agreed. But even as he said it, the laboratory hummed around them, and he wondered what truths they were both still hiding from each other and from themselves. 3 weeks passed in the laboratory's timeless embrace. Ethan and Kaya fell into a rhythm, exploring the facility's vast network of chambers, accessing databases filled with alien knowledge, learning each other's stories. The bond between them deepened naturally, organically, until Ethan could no longer imagine where he ended and she began. They made love in different chambers, on different surfaces, sometimes frantically, sometimes with aching tenderness. Each time, the core sang its approval, the bond between them strengthening. Kaya taught him to feel the connection, to sense the energy that flowed between them, tying them together more thoroughly than any physical intimacy ever could. But always in quiet moments the question lingered, what happened when they finally got out? On the 24th day, the laboratory's primary interface activated on its own. Kaya rushed to it, Ethan close behind, their hands automatically reaching for each other. The contact was as necessary as breathing now. The integration is complete. Kaya read, her voice trembling. The bond is stable and permanent. The facility will begin decontamination and exit protocols. Ethan should have felt elated. Instead, ice flooded his veins. Permanent. She turned to him, her face pale. The core has fully synchronized with us. We're bound for life, Ethan. If one of us dies, the other will follow within hours. If we separate for too long, we both die. We are literally, biologically, irrevocably connected. And you didn't think to mention this might happen? I didn't know, she said, her voice breaking. I've never heard of a bond integrating this completely. Usually keepers bind with their own kind, and even then the connection can be severed with the right protocols. But this, a human and a keeper, it's unprecedented. Ethan pulled away, pacing the chamber. So, what, we're stuck together forever? No choice, no option, just this? Would it be so terrible? Kaya asked quietly, these past weeks, haven't they meant something to you? Or was it all just circumstance? He stopped, forced himself to face her. I don't know. Yes, I care about you. Yes, what we've shared has been extraordinary. But caring about someone and being forced to spend every moment with them for the rest of your life are very different things. Tears streaked down her face, leaving faintly luminescent trails. You think I wanted this? To trap someone, to force them to stay with me forever? I spent decades in stasis specifically to avoid burdening anyone with my existence. And now I've cursed you with it. The pain in her voice cut through his anger. Ethan moved to her, cupping her face in his hands. You didn't curse me. Neither of us had a choice. So, what do we do? She whispered. The laboratory is opening. We'll be free to leave, but only together. Always together. Where do we even go? Ethan thought about the outside world, authorities who would want to study Kaya, governments that would see her as a weapon or a resource, people who would never understand what she was. And he thought about the bond, the connection he could feel humming between them like a living thing. We disappear, he said suddenly. We leave this place and we vanish. Find somewhere remote, somewhere we can live without questions. You'd give up your life? Your career, your family, everything you know? I don't have a choice, remember? But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't entirely true. He could choose how he faced this impossible situation. He could choose bitterness and resentment, or he could choose to embrace what they'd found together. He kissed her, pouring everything he felt into it, fear and frustration and affection and need. She responded desperately, clinging to him as if he might disappear. They made love one final time in the laboratory, knowing it would be their last time in this strange sanctuary. Afterward, clothed and ready to face whatever came next, they stood before the primary doors as they ground open for the first time in weeks. Sunlight streamed in, blinding after so long in artificial light. Ethan squinted against it, feeling Kaya's hand tight in his. Last chance, she said. We could tell the laboratory to seal again. Live here forever, just us. No outside world to deal with. For a moment, he was tempted, but he shook his head. No, we face it together. They stepped out into the forest, and immediately Ethan felt it, the bond stretching, uncomfortable, like a muscle being pulled, just a few steps apart, and already his chest ached with the need to be closer. It's strong, Kaya said, echoing his thoughts. Stronger than I expected. Behind them, the laboratory began to seal, its purpose fulfilled. In moments, it would vanish back into the forest, indistinguishable from the landscape. Their brief sanctuary lost forever. Ethan pulled Kaya close, feeling the bond settle comfortably when they touched. So, where do we go? Somewhere no one will find us, she said. Somewhere we can figure out what we are to each other, without the world interfering. And the core will be with us always, as much a part of us as our hearts or lungs. She looked up at him, violet eyes searching. Can you live with that? With me? Ethan thought about the life he'd left behind, the one he'd never returned to. Then he thought about the woman in his arms, alien, dangerous, beautiful, and irrevocably his. Not by choice, but by fate. Or maybe in some strange way, by choice after all. I don't think I can live without you, he admitted, literally and figuratively. She laughed, the sound carrying an edge of hysteria. That's the most romantic thing anyone's ever said while acknowledging they're trapped. We're both trapped, he corrected. Trapped with each other. Trapped by your secret. And there really is no way out. No way out, she agreed. But she was smiling now, hope kindling in her eyes. So, we make a life here in this trap. Together. Together, Ethan echoed. They walked into the forest hand in hand, the laboratory disappearing behind them. Ahead lay uncertainty, danger, and a future neither had chosen. But also possibility, the chance to become something more than either of them could be alone. The core hummed contentedly within Kaya, bound to them both, a secret that would keep them together for the rest of their lives. And somewhere in the distance, perhaps drawn by the laboratory's final energy pulse, Ethan heard helicopters approaching. Their new life was beginning. Their trap was set, and there was truly no way out.